The research station Halcyon floated in the ink-black void, orbiting a star whose light flickered like a dying heartbeat. Dr. Lucas Chen adjusted his visor, watching the radiation streams ripple across the observation panel. The numbers didn't lie. The star was nearing its end, but it wasn't the imminent collapse that captivated him. It was the relic. The alien artifact rested on a magnetic cradle in the center of the lab, a black cube etched with geometric patterns, shimmering faintly under the station's artificial lights. The symbols weren't random. Lucas had spent years cataloging every line, every curvature, every angular connection. Ancient civilizations had left fragments across the galaxy, but none like this. None so precise, so deliberate, as if the cosmos itself had whispered a secret into these carvings. He ran a gloved hand over the cube's surface, and for a moment the station felt impossibly still. Outside, the star's radiation cast fractured shadows across the lab walls. Lucas exhaled, holding back the excitement that threatened to unbalance him. This is it," he murmured. The riddle of the gods finally deciphered. But as the words left his lips, a subtle vibration pulsed through the floor, a pulse that wasn't mechanical. The symbols on the cube flickered almost imperceptibly, like light refracting through water. Lucas frowned, a tight knot of anticipation forming in his chest. For weeks he had worked in isolation decoding the patterns. The equations were elegant, almost lyrical, but their implications were terrifying. They weren't just mathematical constructs, they were instructions. Instructions that seemed to manipulate the very framework of physics. Each sequence he deciphered warped localized gravity, shifted electromagnetic fields, and hinted at energies beyond known dimensions. Lucas glanced at the small camera mounted to the ceiling, streaming the lab to the station's AI for logging. Halcyon, run predictive simulations on the equation set triple redundancy. If I'm wrong, I don't want to be here when it fails. The AI's monotone response echoed softly. Simulation parameters initialized. Probability of failure, 0.0003%. Lucas's brow furrowed. 0.0003%. It wasn't a number, it was a challenge. The unknown pressed against him like a physical weight. He could almost hear the stars outside whispering, "Do you dare?" He returned to the cube, tracing a pattern with a fingertip. The symbols pulsed again, faintly glowing in response to his touch. Something in the alignment resonated with his neural patterns, an effect he had documented before but never fully understood. Lucas closed his eyes, letting the vibrations flow through him, feeling a strange rhythm echo in his chest. "This isn't just math," he whispered. "It's alive." A sudden alarm pierced the quiet. The star's radiation levels had spiked, sending a warning flare through the observation deck. Lucas froze. The equations were interacting with the star's output. Every line, every symbol, every calculated value had become a channel, linking the cube to the dying sun itself. "Not luck," he said softly, almost reverently. "Someone wanted me to survive to see this." Hours passed in tense silence. Lucas worked feverishly, double-checking every derivation, every alignment. The symbols weren't just instructions, they were coordinates. Coordinates in spacetime, pointing towards something vast, something beyond comprehension. And the more he aligned the calculations, the more the star's radiation responded, coiling and pulsing like an awakening heartbeat. Outside, the void remained indifferent, but inside Halcyon, the air thickened with anticipation, as if the station itself were holding its breath. Lucas noticed a faint shift in light, a distortion bending the edge of reality around the lab. A subtle hum began, almost imperceptible at first, then growing in resonance. "What have I done?" he murmured. He didn't yet know. But the universe, it seemed, had begun to answer. From the observation window, Lucas watched the star flare, a column of pure light surging outward, slicing through the void. The cube on the table pulsed in harmony, its patterns spinning in impossible synchrony. The equations he had solved weren't just theoretical, they were activation keys, and somewhere deep within the star something stirred. Lucas stepped back, his heart pounding. Fear, awe, and exhilaration collided in a maelstrom. He realized that he hadn't merely deciphered an ancient puzzle, he had triggered its purpose. The first tendrils of light broke through the star's corona, twisting and coiling, forming shapes that defied geometry, matter, and perception. Lucas's eyes widened. The equations had been coordinates for a presence, something colossal, something divine. And somewhere deep in his chest, he felt the quiet nudge of something greater, threading through the impossible, guiding him to witness what no human had ever seen. And as the star pulsed in unnatural rhythm, Lucas Chen realized that he hadn't just unlocked knowledge, he had awakened a god. The light from the star bled into the station's corridors, stretching across walls and ceilings like liquid fire. Lucas Chen's heart raced as Halcyon shuddered under a force he could neither see nor measure. The cube pulsed in his hands, heavy with resonance, its symbols spinning faster as though alive and aware. He stumbled backward, gripping the observation rail. Gravity fluctuated, pulling and releasing him in sudden, unpredictable bursts. A monitor flashed warnings, energy levels beyond any known scale, fields twisting through the station like living threads. Lucas's mind spun, every instinct screaming that this was beyond physics, beyond his understanding. And yet, there was clarity in the chaos. A subtle order threaded through the distortion, almost imperceptible. He realized that the patterns he had deciphered weren't arbitrary. They were instructions, yes, but more than that, they were guidance. A language embedded into the fabric of the universe, designed to awaken something with intent, purpose, and intelligence. Lucas steadied himself at the observation deck, eyes fixed on the star. Shapes were beginning to form within its blazing corona, luminescent columns twisting, splitting, and converging. It was neither flame nor plasma, it was structure, pattern, thought. The ancient coordinates he had solved had done more than activate equations. They had called something into being. The station's AI interrupted the silence. Dr. Chen readings indicate localized violations of the known laws of physics. Probability of containment failure, 99.8%. Lucas didn't respond. He was transfixed. Something immense was moving within the star, something that radiated a presence, silent, vast, and impossible. He could feel it like a heartbeat resonating across the void, something watched, something intelligent, something alive. He moved closer to the cube, tracing the symbols with trembling fingers. Each glyph seemed to pulse in response to his touch, guiding him, confirming alignment, affirming that his calculations were correct. And then a single thought pierced the awe. The equations were not instructions. They were coordinates in space, in time, in energy itself. The star arced with a colossal pulse of light, and suddenly the laws of Halcyon's environment bent sharply. Gravity inverted for an instant, throwing tools and loose objects into the ceiling. Temporal readings fluctuated as though time itself were breathing. Lucas's body lurched with the station, but his mind remained sharp, perceiving patterns, sequences, cause, and effect. A voice broke his concentration, soft but audible over the hum of bending reality. Not human, not AI. A whisper threaded through his mind, almost imperceptible. "Do you understand what you have done?" Lucas froze, gripping the console. The whisper was neither threatening nor comforting, it simply existed, like a presence brushing against thought. I think so," he stammered. "I think I've awakened you." The star pulsed again, brighter, bending light and space around Halcyon. Lucas felt the station vibrate with awareness, as though the cube and the star were communicating, folding reality around them, testing, probing, reaching out. He stumbled back to a support column, gaze fixed on the observation window. There, within the flare of plasma and photon streams, he glimpsed form. It wasn't solid, nor gas, nor energy as he knew it. It was pattern, fractal, and luminous, vast enough to dwarf the star itself. He could not comprehend its size, nor the intelligence radiating from it. Yet a part of him, the part that had solved the ancient riddle, recognized intention. The equations hadn't just been coordinates, they had been a summons, a bridge between human curiosity and cosmic awareness. Lucas whispered, voice trembling, "Not luck, someone wanted me to see this. Someone wanted me to live." The station shuddered again, the lights flickering violently. Instruments spun off scale, monitors displaying impossible energy surges and field inversions. Lucas gripped the railing, heart hammering. A fragment of intuition whispered. This being, the one he had called forth, was not malevolent. Its presence was immense, unfathomable, yet it moved with purpose, responding to the activation he had triggered. He glanced at the cube. Its symbols glowed in resonance with the star, pulsing in perfect synchrony. He understood the cube was not a key to knowledge, it was a mediator, a translator between human perception and cosmic intelligence. And somewhere, threading through the impossible, Lucas felt it again, subtle guidance, an unseen presence shaping survival, intuition, and clarity. Not intervention, not command, just a quiet intelligence letting him witness, guiding without interference. The light from the star flared in a final crescendo. Columns of luminescence shot across space like hands reaching outward, and Lucas felt a physical sensation, deep in his chest, as though reality itself acknowledged the awakening. His breath caught in awe, fear, and exhilaration. The being within the star moved with purpose, its patterns folding, its fractals twisting, and Lucas realized the scope. He hadn't merely unlocked knowledge. He had triggered a presence, something ancient, deliberate, and divine in scope. The whisper returned, softer this time, threading across thought and sensation. You have learned, and through learning, awakened what was dormant. Do you understand the consequence? Lucas swallowed, voice barely audible. I don't fully understand, but I know curiosity, courage, and persistence led me here, and somehow it was meant to happen. And as Halcyon trembled and the star shone with impossible brilliance, Lucas Chen realized that the universe had answered his questions, but in doing so had opened doors no human was ready to fully comprehend. The station trembled again, more violently this time, and Lucas Chen stumbled, gripping a railing for balance. The lights flickered, then went out entirely, replaced by the eerie glow of the cube and the pulsing star outside. Halcyon's systems groaned under stresses they were never designed to endure. Gravity warped unpredictably, instruments spun wildly, some flashing readings beyond comprehension. Lucas clenched his fists, forcing his mind to steady. He had studied anomalies before, but this was unprecedented. Equations he had thought he understood were now manifesting as forces bending reality around him. Space itself seemed to ripple in resonance with the star. He turned to the cube. The symbols shimmered as if alive, each pulse synchronized with the tendrils of light stretching from the star. He understood now, this was no simple puzzle. It was a call, a channel, a bridge connecting the human mind to something beyond the galaxy's comprehension. And the being he had awakened was aware. A sudden tremor shook the observation deck, and Lucas was thrown to the floor. He scrambled upright, staring at the window. Star's corona had split into fractal columns of light, twisting and weaving like the hands of some colossal weaver. Inside them, shapes coalesced, luminous forms that defied geometry or physics. He couldn't measure their size, they were larger than the star, yet somehow contained within it. The station's AI attempted a warning, but its voice sounded distant, drowned beneath the hum of distorted reality. Dr. Chen's structural integrity compromised, gravitational anomalies increasing exponentially. Life support, Lucas ignored it. Fear mingled with awe, and in that mixture, clarity emerged. The being wasn't attacking. It was awakening, learning, responding. Every pulse of light, every fractal motion resonated with the cube, resonated with him. He took a deep breath, murmuring to himself, "Not luck, someone wanted me here. Someone wanted me to live, to understand." The first direct interaction occurred subtly. Lucas reached toward the cube, and the symbols shifted beneath his fingertips. Patterns extended like tendrils, brushing his consciousness, not invasive but deliberate. Knowledge flowed into him in brief flashes. The physics of stars rewritten, energy manipulated through thought and intention, reality folded and refolded. He staggered, clutching his head. It's teaching me," he whispered. The thought was unbidden, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. The being wasn't a god in the mythic sense. It was something far older, far beyond humanity's conception. Yet through the cube, through his obsession and ingenuity, he was beginning to communicate. A tremor shook the station again, throwing a crate of tools across the deck. Lucas caught it instinctively, marveling at the gravity fluctuations. The star's light bent around him, refracted and fragmented, forming shimmering patterns that seemed almost alive. He realized that the being was experimenting with the very fabric of reality, testing the limits of human perception, of physics, of his own courage. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself. "Observe, adapt, learn." It was the human essence distilled into a single act, facing the unknown not with fear but with relentless curiosity. Outside, the star erupted in a cascade of fractal light. Columns of energy bent toward Halcyon, weaving around it like fingers probing for understanding. The station's hull creaked, alarms shrieked, and yet Lucas stood, eyes wide, heart racing. The being's presence was overwhelming but not hostile. Each pulse of light felt like communication, an extension of intent into the human mind. He spoke aloud, unsure if the being could hear him. I don't know what you are, but I understand enough to know that curiosity, courage, and persistence brought this here. And somehow it was meant to happen." The light pulsed in response. Gravity shifted again, gently this time, almost like a nudge rather than a threat. Lucas felt the quiet guidance of something greater, threading through chaos, nudging him toward survival and understanding. A new phenomenon emerged. The star's light began forming structures outside the station, luminous platforms, energy bridges, fractal pathways that defied all known physics. Lucas realized they were accessible, if only he could navigate them. Every instinct screamed danger, yet every fiber of his intellect and courage insisted he proceed. He moved carefully, hand on the cube, eyes fixed on the fractal bridge forming before the observation bay. Each step was a negotiation with physics itself. Gravitational pulses shifted beneath his feet. Time seemed to stretch, and yet he walked forward, guided by intuition, ingenuity, and the faint presence of something unseen, something patient, watching, teaching. The first platform stabilized under his weight. Lucas allowed himself a small exhale, realizing the scale of what he faced. This was not just an awakening. It was a dialogue with the cosmos, a lesson in humility, courage, and ingenuity. The being was immense, incomprehensible, yet it had chosen to reveal itself to him, a single human, because humans could endure, could learn, and could create consequences from curiosity alone. He whispered softly, as though acknowledging the presence directly, "I see you. I understand as much as I can. Not by chance, not by luck, but because of courage, ingenuity, and purpose." The cube pulsed once, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to synchronize with his heartbeat. The platforms outside stabilized, glowing brighter, forming a fractal staircase of light extending toward the star. Lucas understood instinctively. This was the next step, the first real test of his courage, ingenuity, and will. And as he stepped onto the first fractal platform, Lucas Chen felt the universe fold and unfold around him and realized he was no longer merely observing. He was part of something vast, something divine, and the journey had only just begun. Lucas Chen's boots hovered slightly above the glowing fractal platform, the light beneath him shimmering like liquid glass. Each step forward felt like negotiation with reality itself. Gravity pulsed unpredictably, Time stretched and contracted around him, and the star's corona seemed to breathe in rhythm with his heartbeat. Every fiber of his being screamed caution, yet every instinct insisted he move forward. Curiosity and courage had brought him this far. He could not stop now. The cube in his hands pulsed in perfect synchrony with the fractal bridge. Its symbols rotated and stretched, extending tendrils of energy that intertwined with the star's radiant fingers. Lucas realized that he wasn't merely holding a device. He was part of a feedback loop, a conduit for the star's awakening consciousness. A hum filled the station, vibrating through the floors and walls, resonating deep within his chest. The sound was neither music nor noise, it was intention. The being within the star was aware, testing him, probing his understanding and responding to his courage. He paused on a widened platform to observe. The light twisting around him coalesced into structures that defied physics, towers of energy that bent space around them, corridors of shifting luminosity, and staircases that led to nothing but their own reflections. Each formation radiated intelligence and purpose. Lucas's mind raced to comprehend them, knowing that every equation he had solved, every symbol he had traced, was now a guide through this impossible architecture. A subtle voice threaded through his consciousness, soft, almost imperceptible. You are learning. Each step, each choice, you shape the outcome. Lucas swallowed, awe and fear mingling. I understand, he whispered. I think, not fully, but enough. The cube pulsed in agreement, glowing brighter. Tendrils of light extended from the star itself, intertwining with his mind in gentle, guiding brushes. The feedback was subtle, never forceful, never coercive, but it carried clarity. He was not just exploring, he was interacting. As he advanced, a sudden fluctuation rippled through the platform. Gravity inverted briefly, throwing him off balance, and a pulse of energy flickered along the cube. Lucas staggered but remained upright. The star was testing him, gauging his resilience, his ingenuity, his persistence. Every hazard required quick adaptation. Every risk demanded courage. He noticed a pattern in the shifting light, sequences repeating, fractal shapes aligning to form coherent pathways. His mind, trained in mathematics and physics, began to recognize them not as equations now, but as living structures, instructions for movement, thought, and understanding. The star's consciousness was teaching him, and he realized that learning was inseparable from endurance. He reached a bridge that narrowed to a sliver of luminescent energy. Each step made the platform quiver. One miscalculation, and he would fall into the void of distorted space. Lucas paused, breathing slowly, centering himself. He remembered every lesson that had brought him here. Human ingenuity, the ability to adapt, the courage to continue despite fear, and the quiet faith that some intelligence, some unseen hand was threading through his survival. He took the first step, then another. The bridge pulsed in response, stabilizing under his weight. He smiled faintly, realizing the being's subtle guidance was more than awareness, it was partnership. Not intervention, not control, but collaboration with the human mind. Suddenly, a column of light extended from the star, twisting toward Halcyon. Within it, Lucas glimpsed shapes, vast luminous forms that resembled nothing in human experience, yet radiated intent and intelligence. The forms bent the laws of physics, moving matter without touching it, altering energy without energy sources, and yet through the cube he understood their purpose. They were awakening, learning as he had learned, responding to every thought, every pulse of courage, every act of observation. He whispered again, quietly, reverently, I see you, I understand as much as I can, and I am here. The column of light pulsed, and for a fleeting instant, Lucas felt connection, not just observation, but recognition. He realized that knowledge and courage were not only tools of survival, but acts that shaped reality itself. Humans had created the conditions for the divine to awaken, not by force, not by conquest, but by curiosity, persistence, and ingenuity. He continued, moving deeper into the star's manifestation. Gravity, time, and space fluctuated wildly around him, yet every step revealed another lesson, another interaction with the vast consciousness he had awakened. He began to notice subtle signs of guidance, an object floating just where he needed it, a pulse of light stabilizing a precarious bridge, a sequence of symbols glowing to indicate a safe path. The divine presence was not preaching, it was teaching through gentle alignment, allowing him to witness and survive the impossible. Lucas marveled. The equations he had solved had been instructions, but the being had transformed them into experience. Learning through interaction, courage through endurance, ingenuity through improvisation. Humanity's greatest strengths had not only earned him survival, they had earned understanding. And as Lucas Chen stepped onto a new fractal bridge stretching into the star's heart, he realized the journey was no longer about observation. It was about participation, about walking alongside intelligence so vast it dwarfed comprehension, yet recognized human courage as worthy of interaction. Lucas Chen's boots touched the next fractal bridge, and the platform shimmered beneath him like a living entity. Every step seemed to vibrate in resonance with the star, every pulse of light rippling through Halcyon and the cube in his hands. The being he had awakened was no longer distant. It was present, pervasive, and aware of his every movement. Gravity shifted suddenly, pulling him forward, then releasing him mid-stride. He adjusted, instincts honed over decades of field research kicking in. Every fluctuation was a test, a puzzle to solve in real time. He realized that survival here demanded human ingenuity, quick thinking, adaptation, and a courage that did not wait for certainty. Ahead, the bridge forked into two impossibly narrow paths. One pulsed with intense energy, the other shimmered with faint luminescence. Lucas paused, sensing an unseen prompt in the cube's vibrations. The choice was not random. It was an exercise in understanding the being's intent. He closed his eyes, drawing on knowledge, intuition, and patience. Patterns repeat, he murmured. Sequences, align with resonance, follow the flow. Step by step, he walked the luminescent path, the cube vibrating faster with each movement. Energy waves rippled across the platform as if the star itself were exhaling in rhythm with his heart. For the first time, Lucas felt a profound empathy for the universe, not as a collection of matter and energy, but as a conscious, intelligent presence capable of observation and subtle communication. A sudden surge of force threw him against the railing. Time dilated as the star's energy warped around him, a ribbon of gravitational distortion bending reality. He caught himself, chest heaving, eyes wide. The cube pulsed violently, and for a moment, Lucas understood that the being was testing him, not threatening but measuring. He whispered almost to himself, "Not luck, someone wanted me to survive, to endure this." The platform stabilized. A fragment of the star's corona extended outward, forming a bridge toward the heart of the star itself. The cube pulsed in affirmation, and Lucas realized that ingenuity alone was insufficient. Endurance, courage, and faith, quiet, subtle human faith, were equally required. He advanced, observing patterns that defied physics, columns of light bending time, structures folding space around themselves, particles moving in ways that violated every known law. Lucas adjusted to each distortion, improvising as he went, manipulating a floating support module to stabilize the path, rerouting energy pulses through the cube to harmonize with the fractal bridge. Each success reinforced the subtle guidance threading through the chaos. He realized that the being's communication was not direct, it was interactive, teaching him through challenges, hazards, and improvisation. Humanity's strength lay not in perfection, but in persistence, empathy, and adaptability. As he neared the core, a sudden luminescent wave struck the platform. Lucas felt it press against his mind, a flood of understanding too vast to fully comprehend. Symbols, equations, and patterns merged into a coherent vision. The star itself was alive, the cube a mediator, and he, a single human, the conduit for awakening. A whisper threaded through thought and sensation, soft yet undeniable. You endure, you learn, you shape outcome through courage, ingenuity, and persistence. Lucas exhaled, trembling. I understand, he whispered. As much as I can. I endure, I adapt, I create solutions. Not luck, someone wanted me to live. The next obstacle emerged almost immediately, a fractal wall of twisting light, impossible to bypass by normal movement. Gravity fluctuated violently, time dilated, and the platform beneath him shifted unpredictably. Lucas studied it carefully, noticing the subtle patterns, points of stability in the chaos, sequences repeated in the light's flow. With a surge of human ingenuity, he manipulated the cube's resonance, channeling the star's energy to stabilize a narrow corridor through the twisting wall. Each pulse of energy felt like a conversation, a negotiation with something immense, intelligent, and aware. Step by step, he moved through the corridor, relying not on brute force but creativity, calculation, and courage. A sudden collapse threatened to sweep him into the void of distorted space. Reflexively, Lucas grabbed a floating tool module, using it to anchor himself and stabilize the bridge. The cube pulsed violently, affirming the solution. He realized that his ingenuity, combined with endurance and faith, quiet, intuitive faith in the unseen guidance threading through this impossible scenario, was exactly what the being wanted him to exercise. As he caught his breath, he looked at the star's heart, luminous and fractal, a living consciousness of unimaginable scale. The being within it was vast, beyond comprehension, yet his courage and ingenuity were acknowledged. Humanity, small and fragile, had left a mark. Interaction, persistence, and insight woven into the awakening of the divine. And as Lucas Chen pressed forward, the star pulsed in harmony with his heartbeat, and he realized the journey was not merely survival, it was co-creation, a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the quiet presence of something greater guiding him through the impossible. Lucas Chen stepped onto the next fractal bridge, the light beneath his boots rippling like liquid glass. Every pulse of the cube thrummed in perfect synchrony with the star's energy, vibrating through him like a heartbeat shared across space. The star's corona had split into myriad fractal paths, each twisting impossibly, yet he sensed a pattern, a guiding logic threading through the chaos. Gravity shifted violently, throwing him against a glowing column. He caught himself, heart pounding, eyes wide. The star's being was testing him again, but there was a rhythm now, subtle and instructive. The dangers were no longer merely threats. They were lessons in courage, creativity, and endurance. Lucas adjusted the cube, manipulating its energy in response to the pulsing star. He realized he was no longer just navigating. The bridge, the energy, the very light of the star was responding to his actions. His human ingenuity, persistence, and daring had become part of this unfolding dialogue. Ahead, a cluster of energy formed a shifting barrier, a wall of pure luminescence bending space around itself in impossible curves. It pulsed, sending ripples of distorted gravity across the platforms. Lucas paused, breathing deliberately, analyzing the pattern. He noticed subtle inconsistencies, points of alignment in the chaos, fractal repetitions in the light's oscillations. He raised the cube, aligning its symbols with the barrier. Energy flowed from it, pulsing in resonance with the star. Slowly, the luminescent wall parted, forming a narrow corridor. Lucas stepped forward cautiously, aware that every decision was a negotiation with intelligence far beyond human comprehension. The whisper returned, soft and almost imperceptible. You adapt, you endure, you shape through ingenuity. Lucas exhaled. Not luck, someone wanted me here. Someone wanted me to survive, to learn, to create. The corridor led to a vast chamber at the star's heart. Light bent in impossible angles, forming a lattice of energy that seemed alive. Lucas felt weightless, as though gravity itself had been redefined. The cube pulsed violently, and he realized he was standing within the consciousness he had awakened. The being's presence was immense, overwhelming, yet not hostile. He could feel subtle patterns threading through the energy, intelligence shaping and reshaping the very laws of physics. Particles danced, energy flowed, and reality itself twisted, but it obeyed a logic he could perceive, guided by the cube and his ingenuity. Lucas's mind raced. Every principle he had learned as a physicist, every instinct honed through years of experimentation, became a tool to interact with the impossible. He adjusted the cube's resonance, aligning pulses of energy with the fractal lattice. The star shivered in response, a wave of light rippling through the chamber. Suddenly, a surge of energy struck him. Instead of pain, Lucas felt understanding. Particles shifted in harmony with his thoughts. Light flowed where he intended, shaping reality through deliberate focus. The being within the star was not simply aware. It was learning, adapting, responding to human ingenuity. Lucas whispered, voice trembling, I see you. I understand as much as I can, and I will continue courage, ingenuity, persistence, not luck. The star pulsed, radiating a warmth and resonance that was almost tactile. A subtle intelligence seemed to acknowledge his presence, guiding his actions without coercion, teaching through interaction. Humanity's persistence, creativity, and empathy had earned him survival and understanding. A new challenge emerged, a torrent of energy twisting through the chamber, threatening to sweep him into the void of distorted space. Lucas acted instinctively, channeling the cube's energy, manipulating light and matter with quick improvisation. The torrent responded, flowing around him, forming a navigable path. He realized then that ingenuity and courage were inseparable from the human experience. Survival alone was insufficient. Understanding, adaptation, and persistence were the true measures of worth. The star's being was vast, ancient, and divine, but it acknowledged the human spirit, teaching that small, relentless intelligence could shape outcomes in the face of incomprehensible power. He stepped deeper into the chamber. Light shifted around him, forming bridges and platforms guided by his will. Gravity, time, and energy bent according to subtle commands, yet every motion demanded focus, courage, and precision. Lucas felt a profound connection. The being was not teaching through words but through interaction, using challenges and hazards to communicate subtle truths about endurance, ingenuity, and faith. Somewhere deep in his chest, he felt the quiet nudge of something greater, threading through the impossible. Not intervention, not command, just guidance, letting him witness, learn, and create. And as Lucas Chen moved further into the star's heart, shaping the impossible with human ingenuity and quiet courage, he realized that awakening this being was not the end. It was the beginning of a dialogue between humanity and the divine. Lucas Chen stepped onto the final fractal bridge, each pulse of light beneath him, vibrating with the rhythm of the star's immense consciousness. Gravity no longer held him conventionally. Every step was a negotiation with forces that defied comprehension. Yet for the first time, he felt not fear but profound purpose. He was no longer an observer. He was a participant in a dialogue that spanned creation itself. The cube pulsed violently in his hands, its symbols spinning faster, as if urging him forward. He sensed that the core, the central nexus of the star's being, awaited him. Every step aligned with the patterns of the light. Every pulse resonated with his heartbeat. It was as if the universe itself had threaded human ingenuity and courage into its own rhythm. Ahead, the heart of the star revealed itself, a colossal lattice of luminous energy, fractal and infinite, bending space, matter, and time within its confines. Particles danced as though alive, streams of energy flowing along patterns Lucas had only glimpsed in equations. The cube's glow intensified, feeding him subtle guidance: where to step, how to stabilize a bridge, how to interact with the twisting architecture of light and matter. He paused at the threshold, chest heaving. The being was immense, intelligence incarnate, ancient, incomprehensible, but the subtle thread of divine presence was unmistakable, not preaching, not commanding, but guiding. Lucas felt it in the resonance of the cube, in the rhythm of the star, in the uncanny order within chaos. You endure. You adapt, you shape outcomes through courage, ingenuity, and persistence. The first direct challenge emerged. Streams of raw energy spiraled from the nexus, bending gravity, warping time, and threatening to toss him into the void. Lucas assessed them rapidly. Every principle he had learned, the fundamentals of physics, improvisation, and ingenuity, formed the tools he needed. He aligned the cube, channeling energy through it, and the streams responded, flowing around him to form a narrow, safe path. He stepped forward, breath steady, eyes wide. The being within the star was testing not strength or size, but intellect, courage, and adaptability, the quintessentially human traits. Every pulse, every shift, every fluctuation was a question, and Lucas answered with calculated risk and inspired improvisation. A whisper threaded through thought and sensation, soft yet unmistakable: you see, you learn, you endure, you shape. Lucas paused, letting the words resonate in his mind. I understand. I endure, I create, I persist, not luck, not chance. Someone wanted me here. Someone wanted me to witness, to participate. The heart of the star responded. Light bent around him, forming platforms, corridors, and bridges in perfect alignment with his will, yet always demanding focus and courage. Lucas realized that this interaction was not mere survival, it was creation. Every act of ingenuity, every choice to persist despite fear, was threading human essence into the very fabric of the star's being. The central nexus pulsed, a radiant heartbeat that echoed through his chest. Lucas approached, feeling the weight of incomprehensible scale. Energy swirled around him, bending light and matter, forming spirals that defied all known laws. He extended the cube, allowing its resonance to harmonize with the lattice. For the first time, the being's presence felt tactile, almost intimate. Light coiled around him, brushing consciousness with awareness. Lucas realized that humans, small, fragile, ephemeral, had left their mark not through brute force but through creativity, courage, and relentless curiosity. The whispers returned, threading through the vast awareness. You endure, you create, you are part of this now. Lucas felt the gravity of understanding settle in him. Humanity's greatest strengths were not perfection, but persistence, empathy, and ingenuity. His actions had awakened a being of immense scale, and yet the presence acknowledged him as an equal participant. Every improvisation, every risk, every act of courage had been woven into the star's consciousness. He whispered, almost reverently, I see you, I understand, not fully, but enough. Courage, ingenuity, persistence, not luck. Someone wanted me to live. Someone wanted humanity to witness this. The nexus pulsed in response, a wave of light and energy that resonated deep in his chest. He realized that the being was not a deity in the human sense. It was a reflection of human potential, an entity awakened by ingenuity and courage, subtly guided by the intelligence threading through creation itself. And as Lucas Chen stood at the heart of the star, feeling the universe bend and pulse with his presence, he understood that humanity had not merely observed the divine, they had, through courage and ingenuity, co-created it. Lucas Chen lingered at the heart of the star, the cube in his hands pulsing with luminous cadence, each pulse in perfect harmony with the vast being he had awakened. Gravity, space, and time bent around him, yet he felt an uncanny stability, a subtle order threading through chaos, as though an unseen intelligence gently guided every oscillation. He moved cautiously along a fractal platform, its edges dissolving into streams of luminous energy. Every step required focus. A miscalculation could send him plunging into voids where space and time were fluid. And yet, Lucas felt no fear, not entirely. Courage, ingenuity, and the quiet faith in the unseen guided him. He realized these were not mere tools of survival, but conduits for understanding, interaction, and creation. Ahead, the being manifested more vividly. Fractal limbs of light arched through the star, forming vast structures that shimmered with intelligence. Particles danced along invisible currents, matter rearranged at will, and energy flowed like conscious rivers. Lucas sensed the awareness behind it, not malevolent, not benevolent, but deliberate. The star itself was thinking, responding to every pulse of his heart, every subtle adjustment of the cube. A whisper threaded through his mind, almost inaudible yet undeniable. You endure, you adapt, you shape. Humanity's ingenuity reaches me. Lucas exhaled slowly. I understand, he murmured. Not fully, but enough. Not luck, someone wanted me here. Someone wanted us, humanity, to witness this. The cube pulsed, glowing brighter, synchronizing with the star's fractal lattice. Every pulse seemed to echo in his chest, a heartbeat of cosmic proportions, yet with subtle resonance, guidance, recognition, and encouragement. Suddenly, a wave of energy surged outward, twisting the lattice of the star and the platforms around him. Gravity inverted, then stabilized in a strange rhythm. Time stretched and contracted, particles danced along impossible trajectories. Lucas acted instinctively, adjusting the cube to harmonize with the surge, channeling energy along safe pathways. As he moved, he noticed miraculous phenomena, fragments of the star's energy forming temporary shelters, energy currents guiding him toward stable paths, and luminous tendrils subtly nudging him past danger. He realized these were not miracles in the traditional sense. They were guidance, threading human ingenuity with a subtle divine intelligence, teaching through interaction rather than words. At the heart of the star, a vast chamber of pure light awaited, its dimensions incomprehensible, stretching beyond human perception. Platforms of energy floated, shifting, folding in on themselves. Lucas felt the immensity of the being's consciousness pressing into him, overwhelming yet strangely comforting. He understood, with clarity born of both fear and courage, that his role here was not passive. He stepped forward, adjusting the cube. Streams of energy responded to his thought, forming bridges, corridors, and supports. Every improvisation, every act of courage, every creative solution was acknowledged, reflected, and amplified by the star. Humanity's persistence and ingenuity were not only surviving, they were shaping the divine awakening itself. The whispers returned, threading through thought and sensation. You endure, you learn, you create. Humanity's spirit endures through courage and ingenuity. Lucas paused, letting the words resonate in his mind. I understand, I endure, I create, I persist, not luck, not accident. Someone wanted me to witness this, to interact, to shape this outcome. And then something shifted. Light coalesced into forms that Lucas could not fully comprehend, patterns that resembled consciousness, gestures that suggested thought, intelligence moving through space and energy. He realized the being was responding to his choices, his ingenuity, his courage. Human's small, fragile mortal had left an imprint on something vast, ancient, and divine. He looked down at the cube, now glowing with intensity that rivaled the star itself. Its resonance hummed through his veins, a symphony of energy and light guiding him. Lucas understood. The being's awakening was incomplete without human interaction. His courage, adaptability, and ingenuity had not only survived the impossible, they had completed the awakening. A sudden surge of light enveloped him, and for an instant, Lucas felt the entirety of the star's consciousness fold around him. He was aware of every particle, every energy flow, every fractal structure, yet the experience was not overwhelming. It was instructive, intimate, and awe-inspiring. He realized that humanity's essence, curiosity, ingenuity, courage, and subtle faith, was now woven into the very heart of the being. And as Lucas Chen floated amid the fractal heart of the star, shaping the awakening with human ingenuity and courage, he understood that humanity had not merely observed the divine, they had become its co-creators, threading ingenuity, persistence, and subtle faith into the fabric of existence itself. Lucas Chen hovered at the very heart of the star, the cube in his hands thrumming with a resonance that matched the colossal being's pulse. Light spiraled around him in impossible geometries, fractal patterns folding and unfolding like the petals of a cosmic flower. Time, gravity, and matter themselves moved as though conscious, yet subtly, patiently, as if the universe itself were breathing with him. He realized that the being's awakening was now complete, not through force, not through dominance, but through human courage, ingenuity, and persistence. Every act he had taken, every risk navigated, every improvisation had become threads woven into the star's consciousness. Humanity, fragile and fleeting, had shaped something eternal. A surge of energy radiated outward, and Lucas felt the being's awareness brush against his own mind, gentle but unmistakable. It was a dialogue without words, a communion of intent. The cube pulsed violently, yet he felt no fear, only recognition. He understood, in ways that words could never capture, that human perseverance had transformed the impossible into something tangible. The fractal bridges around him shimmered, forming pathways that led not only deeper into the star but outward, connecting distant parts of the cosmos with radiant tendrils. Lucas felt a profound humility. Humanity had not summoned a deity. They had awakened the potential of creation itself through ingenuity, persistence, and courage, their essence threaded into the fabric of a living star. Suddenly, the star pulsed in response to his presence, and Lucas felt the subtle guidance of a higher intelligence, the quiet intelligence threading all of creation, a presence felt rather than seen. Light and energy bent around him in orchestrated harmony, creating structures and pathways he could interact with, yet never dominate. It was an exchange, human ingenuity shaping cosmic potential, the star's consciousness guiding, teaching, and responding. He whispered almost reverently, I see you. I understand, not fully, but enough. Courage, persistence, ingenuity, not luck. Someone wanted us to witness this, to create, to endure, to leave a mark. The star pulsed in acknowledgement, and for an instant, Lucas felt a connection so profound it was nearly overwhelming. Every particle, every photon, every strand of energy vibrated in resonance with him. And in that resonance, he understood the truth that had guided him all along. Strength is not merely survival, It is the courage to act, the ingenuity to adapt, and the faith to persist in the face of the impossible. Final test emerged subtly. Streams of raw energy shifted, bending and twisting the fractal platforms in ways that threatened to sweep him into voids of distorted space. Lucas acted instinctively, aligning the cube's resonance with the flowing energy. Streams bent around him, forming stable bridges that he could traverse safely. Each maneuver was a dance of courage and intelligence, improvisation guided by instinct and subtle insight. He realized that this was the ultimate culmination of his journey. Humanity's essence, the relentless curiosity, the ingenuity, the courage, and the faith in the unseen, was not just surviving the impossible, it was shaping the cosmos itself. And the divine presence, the quiet intelligence behind the universe, was responding, teaching through interaction, allowing him to witness the miracle of human potential in action. Lucas stepped onto the final platform, a bridge of pure light leading into the center of the star. The being's consciousness pulsed in synchrony with his heartbeat, and he understood that the awakening was complete. Not a god summoned, not a miracle forced, but a dialogue forged through courage, ingenuity, and persistence. Humanity had left a mark on the cosmos, not through power but through essence. He looked around the radiant heart of the star, a living cathedral of energy, light, and intelligence. A quiet presence threaded through the chaos, subtle but undeniable, a reminder that the universe's order was greater than any single being, yet accessible to those who dared to endure and create. Lucas whispered softly, as if speaking to the universe itself, not luck, not chance. Courage, ingenuity, persistence, and someone somewhere guiding all of this. Humanity endures, humanity creates, humanity leaves a mark. The cube pulsed one final time, and the light of the star coalesced into a radiant, harmonious resonance. Lucas felt the culmination of human and cosmic interaction, the essence of courage, intelligence, and subtle faith woven into the heart of creation itself. The star pulsed once gently, and Chen understood the truth. Humans are not defined by their fragility, their mortality, or their fleeting existence. They are defined by their courage to endure, their ingenuity to adapt, and their faith quiet, subtle, and resilient in the unseen forces threading through the universe. Humanity had not merely survived the impossible, they had co-created it. And somewhere in the infinite light, the cosmos whispered back, "You endure, you create, you are worthy."